Hello, everybody. Welcome inside the Fantasy Hub for our first playoff preview podcast of the season. It's fantasy playoffs, which obviously is the best time of year. So we're here to put the regular season to bed and talk about our big matchups coming up this week in the quarterfinals. We had two teams on bye, waiting to see who their opponents are going to be in the semifinals. And we got quite the field this year. 5 of our 6 teams that have qualified have won titles before. They're 5 of the 6 teams that have won championships in league history. So there's plenty of hardware to go around. Some of those teams looking to build on past glory, and we got one team who's still looking for that first title, so it should be exciting as always. I think first we're going to put the regular season to bed. As I said, it was an exciting week 13, as we talked about last week on the show, one unlike any that we've ever seen in league history. Came down to Monday night, of course, to settle one division title and also one playoff berth. But when it was all said and done, our defending champ, soon-to-be champ, is into the postseason. Getting in over 40s with Andrew, thanks to Andrew Luck's performance on Monday night against his Jets. He was there in person, videotaping it all, doing his thing for his job for the Jets. But I'm sure part of him was rooting for Andrew Luck to do a little bit of work, or at least just enough. Unfortunately for the Jets, they're not very good, so it was pretty easy for Luck to get the job done, get soon-to-be champ the win, get into the postseason where he'll face Also Hard U. That's one of our quarterfinals this weekend. Our second quarterfinal is Comolli and the Sorge. So both some good matchups, some intriguing storylines to talk about. We're going to bring in a member of each of those matchups a little bit later in the show. Also Hard U owner Keith Rakus and Comolli owner Jamie Comolli to break down the matchups and what they're thinking about this week. But to put the regular season to bed, again, it was an exciting week 13, a disappointing finish for Mace's Aces and 40s, who had a chance to qualify for the postseason but came up short with some losses. For Mace's Aces, it's back to the drawing board. His keepers just didn't come through for him this season. And for 40s, he's probably going to bring back some of the same names. We've come to expect big things from 40s. This is only his second missed postseason in the last 7 seasons. So I think we can continue to expect good things from 40s moving forward, especially with Cam Newton under center. It was a down year for the MVP. So I think, you just got to chalk it up to that and hope he comes back better next season. So on to the postseason. Like I said, 5 of our 6 participants have won titles before. Soon-to-be champ, the defending champ, trying to become the first repeat champion since 2008. Our 2 division champs, Le'Veon's Bell and D. Buddhas. Le'Veon's Bell won its first title and only title back in 2009. D. Buddhas has won 2 titles in 2012 and 2014. The Sorge, our all-time leader in championships, has won 3. Won the 2013 championship after winning the back-to-back titles the first 2 seasons of the league. Also Hard U also won back-to-back titles, those coming in 2007 and 2008. And then you have Comolli, who, like I said, is the only team in the playoff field without a championship, has been there once, did so in 2010, coming up short to 40s. So a lot at stake for him. And a lot at stake for every team. We always talk about kind of where you stand in league history. And for the teams with multiple championships, the chance to get a third and get up there with the Sorge up top the leaderboard. Le'Veon's Bell looking for its second to join that club, and the Sorge, as I wrote about this week, any postseason that has the Sorge in it has the chance to be historic. It's got 3 titles, looking for its 4th. Was the scoring champion and avoided kind of the meltdown of all meltdowns, leading the league in points by a far margin, and not missing the postseason, but it got the job done in week 13 as we kind of all probably expected it to do. So it's certainly a dangerous team to go from quarterfinals to champion, something we haven't seen very often in the league, but it's certainly possible. It's going to have to get by Comolli first, which we have some interesting storylines in our first 2 matchups. Only 4 times in league history has a team defeated another team 3 times within one season. Both of our lower seeds this week, Comolli and soon-to-be champ, have the chance to do that to their opponents. Comolli has beaten the Sorge twice, the most recent win coming in week 12. Soon-to-be champ beat Also Hard U twice, the most recent win coming just this past week. So that'll probably add a little bit of intrigue to that matchup as well. So we're going to bring in our 2 owners to talk about the matchups, break down how they're feeling coming off the week 13 where Comolli lost to get in, or both teams actually lost, but Also Hard U was already in, and Comolli will take the loss if it means it's in the postseason. So we're going to get some thoughts from them. We're going to chat to them simultaneously and just kind of have a little group discussion about the quarterfinals. Jamie Comolli, how are we doing tonight?
We're doing good. How are you?
Doing well. So we're bringing Comolli owner Jamie Comolli back into the show for the second week. Getting it back into the postseason. Was out of it last year, but's back in. Got to be feeling good. We're also going to bring in Keith Rakus, also Hard U owner, and we're going to have a little group chat to talk about kind of the quarterfinals as a whole, as a group here. I'm going to dial him in right now. Let's hope he doesn't not pick up like Jamie answered. He's taking a break from work to come in on this call. He really wants this win.
Hello?
Keith Rakus, how are we doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Here, let me patch you in with Comolli here.
Okay.
All right, we got everybody on the line?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good.
All right, great, guys. Thanks for joining the show tonight. Obviously, it's a big week. It's the quarterfinals of the playoffs. As I was kind of just talking about it, a wide-angle view of the postseason. We got a lot of hardware coming into the postseason. 5 of the 6 teams have won titles. 3 of them have won multiple championships. Comolli is the one looking for his first title. So it's going to be, an interesting week. And actually, I just kind of want to do a little commissioner rant here before we get started. And I'm sure, Rakus, given how outspoken you were this season, you're not going to like this. I don't want to put any added pressure on you. This isn't for you. This isn't for me. It's for the league as a whole that we really need you to come up with a win this week. I was texting with soon-to-be champ owner Jason Levine yesterday, and I said something along the lines of like, that must have been bittersweet to watch, luck carve up your Jets, but get you into the playoffs. And his response was shocking. He said he really didn't care either way. All he wanted, basically what was most important was the Jets winning, because that makes his job easier. So he didn't care if Andrew Luck got him into the playoffs on Monday night.
I don't expect anything less from Jason Levine.
It's funny, some people they like waver on their involvement in a season, which usually depends on how good or not their team is. And Jason last year was so into it, texting me all the time, and I literally have not heard a word from him all season. And then he said that to me.
Well, I think we need to have a sit down with him, because he's exactly what's wrong with our league, and I cannot wait to bounce him out of the playoffs. I don't have any respect for the kid. I think that's well noted. I was actually thinking the other day about how, he lost all that weight, and Comolli lost all that weight, but there were 2 different reactions for it. Like, Comolli lost all that weight, and everyone was, feeling good, and happy for him. He looked good. He looked healthy. He looked happy. Jason Levine looks like a fucking burnt potato skin holding together misshapen fruit.
Those are fighting for a fantasy matchup. Let's get into that. So it's interesting. Soon-to-be champ actually did this last year. Beat Sam Dees for 13, played him in the quarterfinals, beat him again. Any concerns heading into this week, stemming from the fact that you just lost to him last week?
I don't have any concern whatsoever. I mean, Andrew Luck had a ridiculous day. I thought the Jets defense would apply some pressure after what I saw them do to the Patriots. They stifled them a little bit, so I figured they'd get some sacks, but I don't see Andrew Luck doing that again. Houston's got a better defense. I'm hoping they show up. And, I think my matchups are looking pretty good. We'll see Thursday night. I got to set a tone Thursday night. The Oakland Raiders got to come out firing against the Kansas City Chiefs defense that my other quarterback and wide receiver tore up earlier in the year. So hopefully by Friday morning I'll have a pretty good lead.
And you mentioned those combos. how important are those QB wide receiver combos to your success this week and moving on throughout the playoffs if you're able to advance?
Well, they're important in that they have to put up a good floor. If they lay an egg, then I'm screwed. I can't really compete with that. I could probably in the first round, but once I get to Kevin and Storage and Comolli and you, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to do that. So, I have the ability to go off. As you saw earlier, I scored 240 points. That's because, both my combos went crazy. They were actually playing each other that weekend. And I think it's a weapon that I have in my back pocket. It's also a weapon that Comolli has. And I think it's real important for me to win the championship. I think I can advance, if they don't do well a little bit, but I can't win a championship if they're not on point.
And yeah, you mentioned, so your two are obviously, pretty good. Comolli has perhaps the best one you could have. So that might be the answer to this question. But Jamie, what do you think is the most important thing that needs to happen this week for you to beat the Swords for a third time this season?
I think it comes down to the final lineups that we submit. We both have a bunch of flex options. He actually texted me earlier in the day that 2 spots, and he doesn't want to mess up. Last time I played him, he had Tyreek Hill on the bench who scored over 40 points or somewhere close to it, and it ended up costing him the week. I have a similar situation this week. Whether I want to play Marvin Jones against a good matchup, or Blunt, who I've played every week, who has that good matchup when they only played. So it basically comes down to lineups and the production that we get out of some key spots.
Just to give you a heads up, Jamie, before we get into the next question, you're breaking up a little bit, so just so you know. And yeah, that was something that I think when I initially started looking at the matchup, saw you had the 2 Patriots running backs in, Deion Lewis, LeGarrette Blount, like you've had for the last couple of weeks, and then you made a late switch. So initially that matchup, your matchup could come down to what happens Monday night with those guys. Is the thought process in benching one of them more about Jeremy Hill's matchup or more about Baltimore's good run defense?
Well, I think it's a combination of both. I haven't been able to trust Hill that often, especially when Gio Bernard was healthy. Gio Bernard got all the passing downs, obviously. Baltimore has been stiff against the run this year. I mean, Blunt has been able to produce week in and week out. Despite the matchup, they usually feed him the ball. But given the loss of Gronk, they might have to use more of a passing back like Deion Lewis. They've still been using James White a little bit, but I still feel good about Deion Lewis. It's just a matter of if it's a tight game or if they're behind a little bit, if they're going to be able to, or they're going to consistently stick with Blunt. Hill's got the gravy matchup against the Browns. You think that they would be playing with a lead for the majority of the game. Pound the ball a little bit, hopefully gets a score or 2 down at the goal line. So it's not a final decision yet, but it's one that I'm leaning towards benching Blunt for the first time this year and going with my second round pick, who I think I've started twice this whole year.
And yeah, like you said, probably going to be one of the deciding points in your matchup for both of you guys making those flex decisions. And I think so. There are a lot of similarities with your guys' matchups this week. I think the big difference, and something I'm probably going to harp on throughout the Fantasy Hats postseason coverage, is experience in the postseason. Granted, it's fantasy football and year-to-year changes, but I still think there's a kind of a mentality of being an owner who's won in the postseason. Whether that's true or not, you guys can judge. But so for Keith, how much confidence do you have in the postseason, given your success, in the postseason in seasons past? Is that something you think about?
It's something I think about early on in the year. I feel like most owners want to win that week. Obviously, I want to win every single week, but if I get 7 wins, that pretty much guarantees me a playoff spot. But I looked into the matchups early on in the year. That's why I traded for Jameis Winston. It might sound crazy at the time, Big Ben, is having a good year, obviously, and it gives him Big Ben and Antonio Brown. But I saw Jameis Winston and Mike Evans are playing New Orleans twice in the fantasy playoffs, and I figure, it's going to be nice weather. It's going to be in a dome, and it's going to be a shootout. So I figure I'm going to get points that way. Same thing with Oakland. I wanted to grab Amari Cooper early in the draft because I knew Derek Carr had a cupcake schedule in the playoffs. He has, after this week, Kansas City's not good, but you have Indianapolis and San Diego. Those could be shootouts as well. I think it starts early on with me. I don't think, you just wake up week 14 and my team all of a sudden clicks. I think you got to have a little foresight, and that's what I've done in the past. I haven't had great records, but I've always gotten the playoffs, and I've always done well. And that's a main reason why.
And then Comolli, for you, like I said, you're the only team in the postseason that hasn't won a title. What would getting that title number one mean to you?
It would mean a lot. It's the end game every season. We've been doing this for a long time. Everyone wants to win. Second's just the first loser. Then in one finals against Joe, I lost. I actually faced our other guest in the finals of baseball this year. Tough battle, but I lost. I faced our league commissioner in baseball last year and lost in a
rest in peace, Jose Fernandez. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. In a ridiculously close matchup. So I've had the taste of a victory at my fingertips, but I've never been able to completely seal the deal. Hopefully this year I'll have a little bit of luck. I think Ann Sorge is a big hurdle to overcome in this first week. My team is can be hot and cold, so I got a little bit of I don't have the matchup set up as Keith was saying that his team does, but hopefully I can get a little bit of luck. My team can go off. Very streaky. I feel like I either put up monstrous weeks or I put up absolute duds. So hopefully my team can put together a couple monstrous weeks and it can get me my first belt and my name etched on our prestigious championship trophy.
And I think that actually can be a recipe for success in the postseason. Is that it's one and done, it's elimination. If you just get that huge week, sometimes the consistent 170 is not going to get it done. So, going boom or bust isn't the worst thing. And since you bring up baseball, I just got to throw in this side note. We'll definitely get Luke Gores to check this out. This guy Luke touting Lucas Giolito, and he just got traded for Adam Eaton. So it shows how good that guy is.
I saw that.
It's awful. All right, guys. Well, good luck to both of you this weekend. Thank you so much for joining the show, and hopefully we'll be able to bring you on back next week in the semis to face me and Kevin.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you.
All right. See you.
Bye.
So there you have it. Word directly from two of our competitors this weekend. Like they said, decisions to be made and should be some good matchups. I think personally for me, when we talk about the Sorge and Comolli, who can win the running back, the main running back battles. The Sorge has got David Johnson and DeMarco Murray have been great all year. Comolli's got Melvin Gordon and Jay Ajayi. What's the breakdown in the matchup there? That could be a big decider. And then, like Comolli talked about the loss of Gronk. If Comolli only goes with Dion Lewis, and I agree with him that you saw it last week, Patriots going with a lot of dink and dunk, some short throws. That's really where Dion Lewis is going to be effective. If Comolli decides to bench LeGarrette Blount, which is a decision that I probably agree with. I mean, you don't want to bench Blount, but Hill's got the great matchup. Dion Lewis could really have a heavy workload. And then those flex decisions you talked about initially, the Sorge had Sammy Watkins, and if he decides to go with Sammy Watkins, which, it's all about player versus matchup sometimes with these decisions, Watkins probably the best player he has, but how healthy is he? How effective can he be? So those are some of the big questions for there. And then soon-to-be champion Ball So Hard U. We talked about the combos for Ball So Hard U, and he mentioned that Thursday matchup for the Raiders. I mean, I don't know how everybody else feels. Personally for me, hate having my players on Thursday. They're always sloppy games. Even, it tends to favor the offenses, but still, I'd rather have all my guys play on Sunday, have a full week of preparation, especially two very important guys like Derek Carr and Amari Cooper. So does Ball So Hard You get off to a good start, especially matching up soon-to-be champ has Travis Kelce in that game as well. Big matchup for soon-to-be champ. He talked about some of his good matchups. Matt Forte against the 49ers. I mean, everybody has been just running all over them. Forte has to have a big game. And then I want to focus on the QB play. I mean, I think there's Ball So Hard You lost the QB battle last week. Derek Carr, Jameis Winston versus Tyrod Taylor and Andrew Luck. I don't think it can afford to lose that QB battle this week if it hopes to knock off our defending champ and get him out of the playoffs. Like I said, if you don't really care about making the playoffs, then you certainly don't deserve to be winning back-to-back championships in this league. So there you have it. It should be, once again, an exciting postseason. These things seems to always come down. As I talked about last week, these playoff games seem to always come down to the last point, the last decision. So you better make the right decisions. You better be rooting for every point you can get because you never know when you're going to win by a point, 2 points, 10 points, 20 points. You just don't know. So take those lineup decisions seriously, and hopefully we'll have some exciting games, and we'll be back next week to talk semifinals. Me and my brother, we're going to be in those semifinals. We're waiting to see who we're going to play, so we're going to get a round table and see who's going to be playing in the finals. Hopefully it's me. We'll see. All right, thanks for joining us.